Hello, everybody, and welcome to the
2018 Gryffindor Pride of Gryffindor Awards. I hope everyone's really excited about them. We've got a bunch of great categories celebrating lots of great authors. I am desperately trying to catch up reading all of them, but I know that you guys that have been voting are really excited to see the results, so I'm sure Kevin will be back soon to discuss them in great detail. And
so everybody who is new to the common room, say hello to Caitlin, a living legend of Gryffindor who's back from her year-long walkabout of planet Earth. And to all those old faces who are watching the broadcast, a hearty hello to you guys as well. So jumping on in straight into the broadcast itself, we're all thrilled to be here. I am joined by not just Caitlin, but also 4 of our other housemates, the wonderful Gina, aka Unwritten Curse, Kayla, aka poppunkpadfoot, Pix, aka Pixileanin, and Taylor, aka Shadow Rose. And so we, as you guys know who've been participating, first off, thank you very much, everybody who participated in the process this year. It was kind of a longer, more drawn-out process, but we ended up with 20 categories, a zillion amazing nominees, and a bunch of amazing finalists across 20 categories. And we're going to tackle those tonight in alphabetical order, starting with the winner for Best Action Adventure Story. The nominees for this category, which focused, this one's pretty self-explanatory focus, but we were looking for action-packed thrill rides for people to enjoy. And this year's finalists were Coffee and Curse Breakers by Pix, Project Azkaban by Gina, and Year of the Snake by Mel, aka Melian. And the winner of the 2018 POG for Best Action Adventure is Coffee and Curse Breakers by Pix.
Woo!
Pix, if you would be so kind as to unmute yourself and share kind of what inspired this story.
Okay, so what inspired this story was the challenge on the forums for the Soulmate AU challenge and extra prompt. And so when I was writing this Soulmate AU story, first of all, I might be one of a handful of people on the planet who had never read a Soulmate AU story ever. So I was going by the seat of my pants. I'm like, oh, look, it's a soulmate thing. And I started writing and it turned into a cold case murder mystery. And there you go. So the action adventure part of it came actually from the prompt because my 2 characters had to be in a coffee shop, and person A had to be standing behind person B who had a ridiculous coffee order day in and day out. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, how am I going to make this soulmate trope that I have with the marks, hurting them when the other person's in dire danger, go along? How can I make a coffee shop be dangerous? And that's what happened.
And it turned into an absolutely amazing blend of dialogue, description, characterizations, and a huge mystery that unfolded where the coffee shop actually ended up, hopefully this isn't too spoilery, ended up being like really central to the whole situation. So congratulations, Pix, on an incredibly well-written story and a much-deserved winner of the Best Action Adventure POG for this year.
Thanks. It was really fun to write. So are we going to the next category?
We are. You're just going to take it away.
Okay, so our next category is Best Angst. And I don't have our finalist. Oh, yes, I do. No, I don't have our final.
The finalists were Parisian Scars by Crimson Quill, Silence Cuts Loudest Through the Chaos by 1917 Farm Girl, Silence Death by myself, poppunkpadfoot, and Thin by Shadow Rose.
Okay, great. And we can have a proverbial drum roll, and I can open an envelope here. Hold on, I have an envelope. Okay, there we go. And the winner is actually, oh, look, it's a tie. It's a tie between Silence Cuts Loudest Through the Chaos by 1917 Farm Girl and Silence Death by poppunkpadfoot.
Woo!
Yay! So congratulations to both of those well-deserving authors. Just a few words about those two stories. First of all, I thought it was very interesting that both of those stories had the word silence in their titles, and they both were very different kind of stories. 1917 Farm Girl, with her Silence Cuts Loudest Through the Chaos, she wrote a Merlin fandom story, and the summary is: kidnapped by a mad king, Arthur and Merlin must rely on each other like never before. While Arthur struggles with choices that put his heart and duty at odds, Merlin struggles just to stay alive after being stripped of his magic and freedom. With impossible choices and heavy secrets weighing them down, can they manage to escape before all is lost? And the story revolves around the for lack of a better word, the bonding between Prince Arthur and his manservant Merlin, and the conflicts that they have in this horrible situation that Farm Girl throws them in. And the angst comes in really fantastically. There's one section of the story that that really stuck out to me, where I think it's chapter 15, that is called Everything That Isn't Said, which again is this theme of silence. And Merlin is so worried that he's going to be separated from Arthur. They've been captured. He's in some kind of prison camp. He wakes up in the morning. He thinks he's going to be shipped off with the rest of the servants to this mine, and he's never going to see Arthur again. And for some inexplicable reason, the guard doesn't ship him off. And so before he can even have, relieved feelings about that, the first thing he sees is that guard that had saved him being whipped in the center of camp for not doing what he's supposed to be doing. So there's just, loads and loads of, oh, good, something good happened, and now something bad is coming their way again. So if you haven't read it, I would highly recommend it. It's definitely novel length. You want to spend some time on it. And then the tie with Silence Death by poppunkpadfoot, whose summary is: the war ends and Remus Lupin loses everything in one fell swoop. And this has some very heavy subject matter. And since you're here, right? Is poppunkpadfoot here?
I am here. Hi.
Yay, hi.
It's poppunkpadfoot.
Pop.
Yes.
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 I have some questions for you. I wanted to know, what was the catalyst for the story? Sometimes we get these idea flashes. What was the seed that started you on this journey when you read this?
Let me think for a sec. So it was written for Sharon, not Theodore's historical headcanons challenge, and I really wanted to sign up because I like history a lot, and I was trying to think like what time period do I know most about, and I know quite a fair bit about the AIDS crisis in the 80s. It's kind of a long story, but it's like kind of my career path a little bit in a way. I'm actually in school for community work, and I'm doing a placement with an HIV/AIDS advocacy group, and that's what I'm looking to do. So I checked with Sharon that it wasn't too recent history, and she said it's fine. So of course, being me, I started writing a story about Sirius. And I got about 2 paragraphs in, and then I'm like, wait a second. Sirius is definitely in jail right now. Like, this is not going to work. And instead of just making it an AU where Sirius doesn't go to jail for whatever reason, I was like, well, who wasn't in jail? And of course, the obvious answer is Remus Lupin, because he was not the only one not in jail and not dead and not living disguised as a rat. So here we are. But then I was really excited actually that it worked out that way, because as I'm sure people have seen me talking about on Twitter, I really hate that J.K. Rowling tried to make Remus Lupin an AIDS allegory. So it was interesting to kind of grapple with that a little bit and write a story that actually had Remus and had lycanthropy and had AIDS all in the same story without doing that and making that comparison. And I had to really be careful about that. So it was a really good challenge for me. So I was excited that it happened like that.
That's really interesting that you started writing about Sirius and ended up with Remus Lupin, because my Sirius Black Angst story, the very first line says, Remus Lupin never does anything that he never wants to. And I'm thinking, this is about Sirius. Why am I writing about Remus? I don't know. They're paired so well together. But I'm not going to read the entire quote here, but that one section where Remus is with his partner, and the section that really got to me was just the very simple line where he just, he's staring at his partner and the mark on his neck, and he says, "Go to the doctor, please." That was a big moment in the story. So I'm really, that moved me a lot. And I'm going to show a little bit of my age. Late 80s, early 90s were my YA years. I was in college during that time. So when they said safe sex, that wasn't just a saying. That was like life or death, because no one knew where it was coming from, what it was going to do next. It was really scary, and just nobody knew what was going on. And the people who got it, it was really hard to show compassion for them, because there was so much fear, and it was such a horrific thing. You knew if you got it, you were going to die. So you captured that really well. So congratulations.
Thank you. That means a lot to hear. Are we moving on to the next category? That's Gina, right?
Yes.
Sorry, I was muted.
The goal is whenever there's that lull for the next category, that feel free to just jump on in.
And I was totally talking at the computer muted, so I apologize. But the next category that I'm moving into was Best Artist. And our finalists were Lady Asphodel, poppunkpadfoot, and Treacle Tart, 2 of which are here today. The winner is, I'll do a little drum roll on my table here. The winner is poppunkpadfoot. Woo! Yay! I'm the only one cheering. That's okay. Everyone else is muted. But Kayla's here with us. I just wanted to start out by saying how much I love Kayla's work. I was scrolling through her author's page, just checking out some of the banners that she'd made, and I love how each of them feels so different. Like, each has its own tone, and it matches the story that it's paired with so well. I especially love her banner for the department. If you guys haven't checked it out, go to her author's page and check it out. but it is so cool. It's got this whole geometric vibe to it, and the color is beautiful. I'm not a graphics person, so I don't know all the lingo, so I guess I'll turn it over to Kayla to help me out. She can talk a little bit about her style and how it's evolved, and I don't know, Kayla, how did you get into, oh, Caitlin's talking, sorry.
Caitlin wants to jump in.
I was just gonna jump in because I started with Kayla, like we kind of started graphicking like around the same time, and it's just like you should see the evolution from the beginning when she first started making graphics to like where she's at now. It's so insane at what like a rapid rate she's grown and how like unique her style is in the graphics world. It seems like a lot of times there's like really trendy styles and people kind of mimic each other repeatedly, but something that I really appreciate about Kayla particularly is that she has her very own unique style. Like you can look at a banner or a chapter image or anything, and like I can almost always tell that she made it before I even read the name on it, just because there's like that very distinct look that's uniquely her, that's not a copy or mimicking someone else. And that's, I think, what stands out the most to me about her work, not just the amazing quality, but like the uniqueness of it. So since I've seen this from like the beginning to the end, I couldn't resist saying something. Sorry, didn't mean to butt in.
Thank you, Caitlin. You're too nice. I'm all red. Look at this. I don't know. What were you saying, Gina? What did you want me to answer?
I don't know. I kind of threw out a lot. You can answer any of the above. I was talking about kind of your style and how it's evolved. I guess Caitlin kind of spoke to that.
Yeah, well, I do want to say, since Caitlin said all that, like I wouldn't be where I am with graphics if not for Caitlin. Like we really worked together a lot for a long time there, where every graphic each of us made, we'd send it to the other and just like hammer through all the issues together. I really would like still be where I started if not for Caitlin. So thank you, Caitlin. But yeah, it's fun. I mean, at this point, it's something I mostly do when I actually need a graphic. There was a time there when I was just making graphics, and now it's mostly like I need a banner, I need a chapter image, whatever. But a lot of the times, even when I start writing, I'll like have the banner kind of in my head. Like Silence Death, for example. I had this image in my head of like having Remus with like kind of the red loop around him, because like an AIDS memorial ribbon, it's like, it's red, like, what a ribbon looks like. So I wanted to do that right from the beginning. Just stuff like that. My entry for the prefix challenge that I'm working on, I have a banner ready to go because it was like one of the first things I thought of. So usually, like, I'm glad to hear that for you, they kind of match the story, because usually it's something I think of when I think of the story, and then I put them together in a way. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think you totally pull it off.
Yay. Thank you. I think I'm next. Okay, so I'm going to be announcing the winner for Best First Wizarding War. Tongue twister. We only had 2 finalists here, and they were Behind the Curtain by Cassius Alcindor, I think that's how you say that, and The Possibility of After by Unwritten Curse, Gina, who we have with us. And the winner in this category was Gina with The Possibility of After. So The Possibility of After, for those of you who aren't familiar, it's really cool. Obviously, it's set in the first Wizarding War, words. But it's awesome. It has an amazing cast of characters. All of them are just so well developed. I read the first chapter, and by the end of it, I just wanted to like literally hug all of the characters so close and be like, I'm sorry this is happening to you. So Gina, you're a very cruel person, but you're a very talented person. And so I forgive you for being cruel. Just give me a second. I had something written down. Oh yeah, okay. So again, for those of you who aren't familiar, it is set in the first Wizarding World. It's about Amelia Bones, and she is experiencing a lot of loss in her life, as was very common during the First War. And then the summary sums it up way better than I could. In the midst of the first Wizarding War, 18-year-old Amelia Bones says too many goodbyes, but the goodbyes aren't without a life-changing hello to motherhood. So I think that's really cool. I've never seen a take like that exactly. It's not uncommon to see like teen pregnancy stories, but usually it's like some stuff like, oh, Hermione and Draco are prefects and they get busy in the prefect's tower or something. I don't know. So Gina, could you tell us a little bit about the inspiration for this story and what writing it has been like?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny that you said that, because the original inspiration, like way back when I started writing it, probably, oh gosh, 2-3 years ago, was for anti-cliche challenge or something like that, like take a cliche and make it not cliche. And the one I was given was teen pregnancy. And I was just like, okay, how do I make this unique? It's been so long that I don't remember why I thought of Amelia Bones and where that came from, but it just kind of went from there and evolved from there into this first Wizarding War fic, which is apparently my thing because I wrote Constellations, which was about the first Wizarding War too. But anyway, it's interesting to me how the story has evolved over the years, because when I first started writing it, I was not a mother, and now I am. And so writing it from that perspective has changed where I'm taking the story, which I don't want to say too much. I don't want to spoil it, but I thought it would be really interesting to kind of pair this idea of grief and loss, which is something that I'm unfortunately familiar with, and to pair it, like I said, with the joy of these new beginnings, like a new child and motherhood, and see what, just kind of explore psychologically what that would do to a person. Yeah, and I wasn't expecting the background characters to become such a big part of the story. And I wouldn't call them really background, because like Fabian Pruitt, he's a big character in the story and he's helping her on this journey, but he did take on a life of his own for me too. So I don't know, it's been hard to write, but definitely rewarding to write, I would say.
Well, congratulations. I'm happy that you won.
Thank you.
All right.
And I think that kicks it over to me with another slashed category, this time best friendship / family. And there were 2 finalists in this category, Leanne and Jonathan. Jonathan, who's an OC who was cooked up for the story, and they were both characters in Dear Katie, written by Sharn, aka Not Theodore. And the other finalist was the relationship between the one and only Harry Potter and his daughter Lily Luna Potter in My Little Princess by Kenny, aka Starfeather. And these stories were both so strong in the friendship and then the family categories respectively, that all of the voting that took place could not separate them. So they both won. And I think actually, when I thought about it, I was like, this is kind of cool, because we had a finalist that focused on a friendship, and we had a finalist that focused on a family, father-daughter relationship, and they divided the votes perfectly. So that turned out to be really cool. To start with Leanne and Jonathan. Leanne, if you're not familiar with who that is and why that's not an OC, that is Katie Bell's friend from Hufflepuff. That is only ever referred to as Leanne in canon. And so basically the story takes place after Katie is cursed by the cursed necklace, and Jonathan, who is Katie's brother, and Leanne are trying to write letters to Katie to kind of wish her well, encourage her to get better, hope that she wakes up. In the beginning, they're kind of feeling like they're talking to no one, sort of expressing their grief and their emotions about what happened through those letters. But they, of course, find out that each is writing these letters, and they have some correspondence back and forth, where a connection over their concern for Katie develops. And it was, I think, in the style and the scenario, which is not the first amazing story that Sharn has written involving Katie Bell and the Cursed Necklace. but I thought it was another great great addition to Sharn's wonderful authors page. Then Kenny's story, which of course focused on the family aspect, really centered essentially on this idea of parents coming to grips with their kid growing up. In particular, this was the father-daughter relationship, which I have a son, so I can't really speak to that particular aspect. But I think, you know, gosh, my son's only 7 years old, and he already wants to run the world and be super independent. This story focuses on, you know, Luna actually coming of age, and Harry realizing that, you know, he's not going to be able to protect Luna forever, especially not from things that she doesn't need really protecting from, like a nice, innocent fellow student Dylan, who's just trying to date Luna, just trying to be a good guy, and he's not being put off by the Harry Potter or interrogation. But the story concludes with this sort of wonderful, just little moment where Harry wakes up and he has that realization. And so I thought these were both great stories, very representative of the category. So congratulations, Sharn, and congratulations, Kenny.
Okay, so I guess that's me for the next one. Our next category is Best LGBTQA, and we had 2 nominees for this category. The first one was And Again by Not Theodore, and Pro Libertate by TidalDragon. And our winner is And Again by Not Theodore. So yay, Not Theodore, And Again. And I wish she was here because I had some really cool questions. But one of the things that I really liked about this story, first of all, let me read from here. I like to read the summary. 6 times Dominique has to tell people who she really is, and 1 time she wants to. So for the this was written for the June Prefect Coming Out Challenge, and it's one of the more recent works on Not Theodore's author page, and everybody should go read all of her stuff because it's awesome. And so just like the summary says, Dominique tells people about her sexual preference being bisexual, and you don't do this just the one time. It's, you know, it comes up over and over again. So the coming out, you have to keep coming out. And so she has 7 different instances where she does this to different people, and she has to deal with the different reactions. And fortunately for this character, Dominique Weasley, her first time, she gets a very positive, reassuring reaction from her sister. And I really liked that because that really built up this character's confidence, because there were a couple of times when she didn't get a positive, reassuring experience out of it. And I really liked how the character had that confidence to push through. And there was a time when one of the instances when she was able to help somebody else with that as well. And so it was really nice to see all the different aspects of the character, not just explaining, but, you know, living through it and then assisting other people with it as well. And of course, you get that really sweet moment in the end, which of course I don't want to spoil everything, but just go read the story. It's wonderful.
I'm going to jump in here really quick. I can't help myself. I love this story. I did a little bit of, I'm going to call it sensitivity reading for Sharn on this one. which is why I wanted to talk about it, because I know how much it meant to her to really get this story right. I think I wasn't the only person she had read it. She was just like, I need to make sure this is accurate. I need to make sure it's sensitive. I need to make sure this is an authentic portrayal. She took it really, really seriously, which I really appreciated. And the final product is fantastic, which is not surprising to anybody who knows Sharon and her writing, because she is incredible. So if you haven't read it, go read it, because it's really, really good.
It is. It is.
Okay, there, I'm unmuted. I did it. I'm next with the Best Minor Character category, and these are all stories that in some way showcased a character that is not, I don't know, that doesn't get a lot of airtime normally in the Harry Potter books, in canon at least. And the finalists for this category, we had 3. First was, I feel weird talking about my own story, but Fabian Pruitt in The Possibility of After, this is my story. Fenrir Greyback in Coffee and Cursebreakers by Pixileanin, and the Dumbledore family in Prisoner by Crimson Quill. And the winner is the Dumbledore family in Prisoner by Crimson Quill. Congratulations, Abby. I know that you're probably home with your little baby, so congratulations on that as well. But this story, you guys, I love this story. It's so deserving of winning this award. This is a story that explores, as you can imagine, the Dumbledore family. And it's, let me start with the summary, because I don't even know how to talk about how beautiful the story is. But the summary is, we are all prisoners in some form, some physically, but others mentally bound by our own sanity, anger, guilt, and regret. This story actually won 3rd place in the POGS Awards for Friends/Family. And then, of course, it is the winner for our minor character category here in the POGS Awards. What I love so much about this story, and feel free to chime in, guys, as you want to, but I love how Abby manages to juggle or handle all of these characters in one story, and so well. And she really addresses the hurt and the anger surrounding this terrible incident that has happened to the Dumbledore family. And I love too how she switches point of view as well. We get 3rd person point of view as it explores like different characters, and then we get 2nd person point of view with Ariana herself. And I love that. And in the review that I left for Abby, I mentioned how it's almost like Ariana is a character who she can't fully understand what's going on. And so I loved the switch to 2nd person point of view. I thought that was so crafty, where we're kind of invited to experience what it would be like for her. And I don't want to spoil the ending, but the ending, I just keep using the word beautiful, but it is beautiful. It's, I feel like it's the best ending for the story in a way that it gives us hope for this broken family that's been so burdened by this event, without really showing us what's going to happen next, but hope in a way that we can imagine better things for the family.
Yeah.
No, I see you unmuted, Taylor. Go for it.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I think it's really rare to see someone do 2nd person point of view like that well. But I think it just fits so well with like Ariana's character, because like, I don't know, she's almost like an out of body character. Like she's just a very, I think that 2nd person point of view just really gets at who she is better. And it like, then that switch back just makes it so much more powerful, going from that 3rd person with Kendra and Percival back into the 2nd person, and getting to see that. I think that just shows who she is really well too.
I totally agree. It's a beautiful story. If you haven't read it, check it out. And congratulations to Abby.
My turn. I'm going to be talking about our best moment category. Just going to explain that one real quick, because it sounds like it's talking about a story, but it's not. It is, in fact, talking about the best moment that we as Gryffindor, as a house, had in the last year. So I think this is a really cool category because no matter what, all of us win. That's fun. We had 2 finalists for this category, and they were our record-setting Capture the Flag win versus Ravenclaw. I can't remember the specifics. I was involved in this. Was it half an hour? It was something like that, where we captured Ravenclaw's flag in an absurdly tiny amount of time, and it was amazing because we had all been really stressed about our match with Ravenclaw specifically during the game. Like we were so intimidated by them, and then our first round we like instantly found their flag and we were all freaking out. Our other finalist was winning the inaugural House Cup on HPFT, which also was extremely exciting for all of us. We worked really hard, and that's something we can lose this year. We're not going to, but we can, because you can't take away from us that we won the first ever House Cup. So yeah. Anyway, I'm going to announce the winner, and the winner is...
Can I jump in really quick and say
Yes.
from that side of things too, like Kevin and I were staff for both of those events, and I know that like everyone was super excited and having a great time and all competitive and stressed out, but I don't know if anyone was more stressed than me and Kevin. The two of us, if you could see our Skype conversations and like the chats that we had, like that Capture That Flag, that round, the two of us were just like biting nails. I think I slept maybe, I don't know, over the course of the whole Capture the Flag game, maybe like 20 hours. We were constantly checking in and constantly like freaking out. And when it came down to the final, to the House Cup, we were sitting there going like, oh, it's so close. Hufflepuff's coming back. Ravenclaw put up a hell of a fight. Slytherin was in it for a bit too. And it just, oh man, both of them were such epic moments. And I don't really know how we're going to do this category next year, because how do you beat those two moments? They're pretty insanely epic.
You are completely correct, and I remember you telling us how stressed you were. So, and just taking a second to say thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Caitlin, for all your past hard work as staffer and your current hard work as staffer. You guys are fantastic. Now I'm going to announce our winner, and it is our record-setting Capture the Flag win against Ravenclaw, which I think is hilarious. I mean, I voted for it, I'm not going to lie. But it's like House Cup, 1 win against Ravenclaw. House Cup, no, we picked the win against Ravenclaw. You'd think it would be the House Cup. But I don't know, like participating in that round of Capture the Flag it was really exhilarating. It was a lot of fun. We were all really proud of ourselves. So I definitely understand why it won over winning the whole House Cup. But I do think that's hilarious, and I think it's very Gryffindor, and I think it's really fitting. So yeah, that's that category.
Yeah, I thought, I'll echo briefly what Caitlin said about like just going absolutely nuts between the two of us, especially the final event was unfolding and Hufflepuff was just like relentlessly slaying this maze. And as the days went on, Caitlin and I we're like this cannot happen. This can't happen.
There was some serious hair pulling going on.
But with this category too, as people kept voting for it in the background, it's sort of piggybacking off what Kayla was saying. I was like, how's anybody gonna pick best moment like this year? Like obviously is winning the House Cup. So like what else would it be? And then I get in and somebody nominated, I forget who nominated the record. And then somebody nominated winning the House Cup, and I was like, whatever, this is gonna be like House Cup's gonna wipe the floor with CTF, whatever. And then it was totally the opposite. I think the House Cup got like 2 votes. The record-setting win, like just to put it in perspective, a couple of the houses' fastest round wins were over 4 hours. And our win against Ravenclaw, who is just like they were just going off in every single
they were terrible
matchup that they featured in. We got the capture in 39 minutes and 57 seconds. Yes, I do have a spreadsheet of everybody's records and everything. But just by comparison, it was really a mind-blowing achievement.
I think too, it was like so nice because there was, some subtle trash talking going on between the staff behind the scenes, boasting about our teams and, their capabilities. And, the Ravenclaws, they can give it pretty good. And so, when that happened, I mean, I didn't even have to say anything. It was just like mic drop.
Okay, we need to move on now before we spend all day talking about how great Gryffindor is, because we're Gryffindors and are want to do that. So, yeah, who's next? Take it away.
So I will now move on. After noting that I suppose in a manner of speaking, Ravenclaw got the last laugh at CTF because they won the competition. But details. The next category is best story written for a non-HP fandom, and we actually rolled in original fiction to this. That's why it was non-HP this year instead of other fandom like it has been previously. And the finalists in this category, we had 3 finalists. One was Leftovers, which was a CSI based fic written by 1917 Farm Girl. Some Things Are Meant to Be, which was a Merlin based fic, also written by Jill, aka 1917 Farm Girl. And the last finalist was Tragedy, which was a piece of original fiction written by Lizzie, aka Looney Lizzie. And there were actually 2 winners in this category as well. I seem to be blessed with the ties, announcing the ties, but the 2 winners were Some Things Are Meant to Be by 1917 Farm Girl and Tragedy by Looney Lizzie. With respect to Some Things Are Meant to Be, it was this incredible story by Jill that starts out with getting an actual backstory on Merlin and the fact that he's actually an orphan child who gets passed over all of the time, being adopted by many families, and then he runs into this older guy, Gaius, who just kind of really sees in him and the traits that other people rejected him for, really sees in Merlin exactly what he wants and what he values. And that first chapter really takes us through how they come together and develop this basically father-son bond. And then Merlin has to go through, now he's older, but has to go through losing a parent again. And it really just captures how tough that is, but also how Merlin recovers from that as well. So I thought it was a really powerful story in that way. Tragedy by Looney Lizzie was a story that focused on one of the most serious events in American history, and certainly in recent American history, 9/11. It was a story kind of dedicated to everyone who was there in New York City on 9/11, and specifically for all those who died that day. The story opens with people who are actually playing with a tower, and they actually have a plane being toward a built tower with a plastic airplane. But then it flashes into the very real terrorist attack. And it relives not only the experience of being there, but also the aftermath with the coverage, people trying desperately to find loved ones who've been lost or have no idea where they are. What that attack stood for not just Americans, but for everyone who lived in the city. And the title, Tragedy, completely captures it. And it's hard to put into words, really, I think, what this story means reading it. But it touched on so many aspects that people who weren't there can only imagine what it was like. But touches on everything from the events and the immediate aftermath to how it can just flash immediately back into mind in the most innocent of moments, and leaves a truly lasting impact on people. So both stories very worthy winners, and incredibly well performances. So congratulations to both Jill and Lizzie.
Okay, and that brings us to Best Novel. And we had two for Best Novel. The first one is Home by Adorably Cute. And the second nominee was Ignite by Slide. And the winner of Best Novel for our POGS Awards is Ignite by Slide. And oh my goodness, this is a novel, you guys. So if you want to say something about this, please jump in. I wrote down a couple of notes from this. I don't know how to talk about this story. I haven't read all of this story, so I can't really speak for the entire thing. It's the first story in a trilogy of stories, and if anyone's ever read Slide's work, you know how smooth she is with her prose. It just rolls and keeps rolling, and her descriptions are spot on. Her characters pop off the page. It's a next gen story with Scorpius Malfoy and Rose Weasley and Albus Potter, and they are Scorpius is quite the guy in this story. I mean, he's the guy. I have a quote that I wanted to read because I think that sums up everything that I've read about the story so far. It's from chapter 4, which is titled Sackcloth and Ashes. And let me see if I can find that real quick. And of course, I'm not finding it now. But anyway, as soon as I find it, I will read that quote. Does anybody else want to say something about Ignite by Slide? Because I don't know, it's this crazy thing, and I can't wait to get to the end of it.
Yeah, I've been working my way through it, and it's really, really, really interesting. I just love that Slide has somehow managed to combine. There's like still very much like it's very much a next gen novel, so there's still all that teenage drama, just so fun to read about. And then you've got this whole other storyline going with this disease that pops up and all of this mystery that they're trying to figure out. So it's just, there's a lot happening, and it's just really fun to read all of that at once.
Yeah, and as somebody who loves plotting as much as I do, I love the plot, and I'm not going to say anything about the plot. You just have to read the story. She has an incredible plot, and the way that she weaves it through and makes it seem like there's not really much going on, but then when you read, oh my goodness, everything's going on, and it's incredible. And I never felt bogged down because everything just rolls and rolls, and it's really impressive the way that she handles all of this stuff and puts it in there. So in chapter 4, the quote that I was looking for begins with, "It's not going to be dangerous." And then, of course, everything's dangerous. So it's a pretty dangerous story. So congratulations to Slide. Does anybody else want to say anything else about this? Go read this story. Ignite by Slide. Best Novel, 2018, winner of the POGS Awards.
Okay, I think that's my cue to move on. And I will be announcing the winner for the category of Best One Shot. I have the finalists pulled up here. They are Live and Be Well by Pen to Paper, Silence Death by poppunkpadfoot, and Finn by Shadow Rose. And the winner is Silence Death by poppunkpadfoot, aka Kayla, who is here. She had a chance to talk about this story a little bit earlier, so now I'm just going to shower her with congratulations and love, because this is a beautiful, beautiful story. I read it again today in preparation for the POGS, and I'm so sorry for not leaving you. I thought I left you a review when I first read it, but I didn't, so I'm going to do that. But I just love the story. The beginning, it grabs you immediately, because here's this poor man who, Remus Lupin, just to remind you all who we're talking about here, who hears that Voldemort has died and thinks, oh my gosh, yes, like this is it. We can all come out of hiding. Everything's going to be okay again. And then Dumbledore shows up on his doorstep and says, we need to talk. And he finds out that no, actually, James and Lily are dead. Sirius is in Azkaban, and his whole life has basically imploded. And then he ends up finding a new community, which is the LGBTQ plus community, and feels like, okay, finally I feel safe again. And I love, there's this line, I keep flipping to it, where is it? He realizes at one point, where is it? Oh, he can't remember the last time he felt safe anywhere. And then he starts to feel safe here, only to realize, well, now I'm losing people again. It's like everywhere he turns, he's losing someone. He's losing someone he cares about, or he's losing his sense of safety. And I don't know how, like, it's like the triumph of the human spirit. Like, how do you go through that and still come out okay? I don't even know how to word it, but he does. And there's a part where he kind of falls off for a little bit and he's mourning, and it's totally understandable as he's losing the people he loves. This Oliver character as well, when he finds out he's sick and he's dying, he doesn't know what to do. He's like, I've been through so much. How can I go through this? And then the ending, which again, I won't spoil. I don't like to spoil endings, but it just all comes together. And it's incredible, everything that this character has to go through. And it's incredible too how Kayla is able to teach us about a period in history that is so important. It's, I think, a defining part of, the LGBTQ community and the history. And I love that she taught me about that and managed to make it so, so powerful. I think all of her writing really is, but this really stood out to me. I know we already went over this a little bit, as this is the second award that she's won for this story, definitely deserving of that. But if anyone wants to add anything, I'll let you jump in. I'll play the Jeopardy music. Just kidding, I won't do that. Okay, it looks like we're good. Congratulations, Kayla. You totally deserve this. Guess we'll move on to the next category.
The next category is totally me. So it is Best OC, Best Original Character. We had 3 finalists for this character, and they were, or for this category, and they were Amy Bell in Amy Bell Squib Barista Horror by Sleeping Bag on the Sofa, Carson Wood in Home by Adorably Cute, and Cassiel Yaxley in Yaxley by Sleeping Bag on the Sofa. And we have another tie. I'm taking that away from Kevin now. We have a tie between Carson Wood in Home by Adorably Cute and Cassiel Yaxley in Yaxley by Sleeping Bag on the Sofa. I just wanted to say I'm really excited about the way that this category went through the whole process, because those are two of our newer members, and I'm really excited that they were the finalists and they were the winners in this category. And it's great that we have new people in our house who are creating such strong original characters. I feel like original characters are like by far my weakest point. Like that's why I won't touch original fiction. So it's really impressive to me to see new people coming in and creating these amazing characters who just seem to come to life on the screen, not the page, the screen, enough that they would be out here sweeping up some awards. So big congratulations to you two. I definitely really enjoyed what I saw of these characters when I was voting. So yeah, really great work and congratulations. Does anyone else have anything to add or no? Okay.
So I think that brings it over to me. If I'm not interrupting, Kayla. The next category that we had was the best portrayal of a Gryffindor character. And we managed to get 3 finalists for this one as well. Those finalists were James Potter, the original, in Live and Be Well by Pen to Paper, Bill Weasley in The Fox by Kenny, aka Starfeather, and Neville Longbottom in Year of the Snake by Mel, aka Melion. And our winner was Neville from Year of the Snake. And having read 2 out of the 3 of these, I think anybody who's read Year of the Snake knows that story's another instance of Mel's incredible writing. We got Deathly Hallows, which was the whole 7th year not at Hogwarts situation with Harry on the run trying to save the world. Mel tackles it from Neville's perspective in Year of the Snake, actually at Hogwarts inside what really is very much, I think, could be regarded as the front lines almost of the Second Wizarding War. I think it gets lost by a lot of people anyway, that, while Harry's quest was absolutely vital, what people were going through at Hogwarts and in the real Wizarding War, in Wizarding Society writ large, was a much different, much more everyday struggle. And at Hogwarts, it was, I guess, not just even the front lines, it was almost behind enemy lines, which was a big change for that place. And Neville, the thing I appreciated most about the portrayal of Neville in Year of the Snake, and I've not read all the way up to where she is with it right now, but she doesn't just set Neville out there. Like, he came back to Hogwarts and he's just the badass who sliced the head off Nagini, like straight out all of a sudden. He feels like he knows what's going on. The writing's on the wall when he comes back in the first chapter. That proves to be true. It's brought up the idea of starting up the DA again. And initially, Neville is actually, it explicitly says he's thankful for the silence that greets him when he brings up, without Harry, who'd do it. And specifically says, I don't know enough to do it. Like, so who's going to take it up? But of course, he ends up being one of the people who does lead it up. And we see in this story, I think, obviously it's a novel, but it still is like this microcosm of Neville's growth from first year when he was very much not confident in himself, but does develop that critical courage to stand up to Hermione, Harry, and Ron, even if it doesn't go well for him on that occasion. And then he progresses on to have, he starts with more confidence, but develops even greater courage. And in standing up to the horrors, really, that wind up happening in Hogwarts that don't occur explicitly on the page. So, an amazing choice, an amazing Gryffindor. Congratulations, Mel.
Okay, next category is Best Post-War, and this is, of course, the is this the second Wizarding War? The one with Harry and all of them. So Best Post-War. The nominees, or the finalists, should I say, are After Destiny by Cam Angst, Amy Bell, Squib, Barista Auror by Sleeping Bag on the Sofa, and Fix You by TidalDragon. The winner is After Destiny by Cam Angst. Congratulations to Dan for this beautiful story. I keep saying beautiful, but you guys have to stop being so talented, because then I can think of other words. I'm just kidding. This is a stunning story. I was really impressed by this story. I haven't read much of it, but I have read, I think, a couple chapters now, just as I was reading for, nominations and voting and everything. And I am so impressed by how Dan just tackles the subject of what comes next. Like, here we have this massive war, and Voldemort's dead, finally, like for real this time. What happens next? And it's so well done, and it's so thorough, and I just feel like this is such a difficult subject, because you have the trauma, you have the PTSD, you have the grief, you have the exhaustion, and Dan doesn't shy away from any of that in this story, which is, I think, why it won. It's just so, I'm going to say beautiful again, because what else can you say? This is such a great story. There's so many characters in here. That's why I said it was so thorough. And Dan manages to just show us their lives. Just what do you do after this massive event, the day-to-day rebuilding and, picking up where things left off. And on top of that, his writing is stunning. Even just in the first paragraph, I was pulled into this beautiful description, this beautiful world where every detail feels meaningful. I love, even just at the beginning, where he describes Harry's exhaustion. He says, the exhaustion from not having slept in nearly 2 days settled deep into his bones, accompanied by the pain of his accumulated injuries and the gnawing hunger of nearly a year spent on the run. Like, there's so much packed in there, and it's really well done. If you haven't read the story, which I haven't finished it, so I need to, but I would definitely highly recommend it. It's a heavy subject, and I commend Dan for tackling it. I think it needed to be done, and he did it wonderfully. So, anything else that you guys want to say before we move on?
I've read a bit of it, and I just wanted to add that, he does tackle some of the heavy subjects. He tackles some of the not quite as heavy subjects, but he keeps everything very real. He doesn't sugarcoat. He doesn't gloss over. It's real, and you feel it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that. It's very much appreciated. So congratulations, Dan.
Okay, I think I'm up next with Best Quote. And we had some nominees for Best Quote. From Complicated by Shadow Rose, the quote was, "Sometimes I think I'd give up the Egyptian silk for some genuine interest in my life." We had from Thrill Seekers, Marauders with Machines by Pixileanin, that's me, with the quote, "It's not the power inside the bike we have to worry about," Sirius said, looking straight at Peter. "It's the people we give it to." And then we had a quote from The Possibility of After by Unwritten Curse. And the quote was, "Because death seemed to linger around the Boneses, and she couldn't bear the thought of carving another hole in her family tree." And you do that drum roll so much better than I do. So I'm not going to attempt a drum roll, but the winner is the quote from The Possibility of After by Unwritten Curse. "Because death seemed to linger around the Boneses, and she couldn't bear the thought of carving another hole in her family tree." And that's a great quote, especially considering where it came from in the chapter. Poor Amelia Bones, what did you do to her? She, not only is the family parentless, but there are 3 children left behind. One of them has grown and started his own family. And in the very first chapter, she's at a funeral for her oldest brother, his wife, and their 2 children. And so when you think about that and then that quote, I don't think, just what she is trying to take her next breath through is just so hard. And she's just trying to live from one moment to the next during that funeral. And so that quote is stunningly perfect. And so can you speak about a little bit about that? I have a specific question for the story. Do you think that the Boneses would have had a family tree like the Blacks would have had? Would you think that they would have had that somewhere in their home or one of their relatives?
I don't know about like a wall where they put all their faces on, because I feel like that's very pure blood. I don't know. But I imagine the Boneses being super, super close. And especially now that they're kind of almost being picked off one by one. So Amelia feels very acutely the sense that it's me and my one brother now, like that we're it. This is us now. And we have one random uncle in like Scotland. I think I don't know, I put it in one chapter that she has like one other relative. And so in the chapter that this appears, Amelia faints or blacks out, and she doesn't know why. By the summary of the story, you can probably guess, but she's just thinking, if something's wrong with me, like I can't handle this. Nothing, like I have to be healthy. I can't leave my brother behind. So that's kind of where the quote comes from.
Well, I think it's incredible, and it held so much weight without the story. And then when you go and you read it in the story, then you feel it even heavier there. So congratulations for best quote, because it holds its own even without the story. And then you get in there and you're like, oh my God, what is this thing? So congratulations.
Thank you.
All right. So our next category, one of my favorite categories, it is Best Reviewer. We have a lot of really good reviewers here in Gryffindor House. We're really lucky. For this category, this time around, we had 3 finalists, and they were Crimson Quill, Not Theodore, and Pixileanin. Now, all 3 of these guys leave the best reviews, like really good reviews, but we do in fact have a winner in this category, and it is Not Theodore. Yay! So I'm really excited I get to announce this, because Sharn is like one of my favorite people, and she really deserves this, because if you've ever gotten a review from Sharn, you know that they are like ridiculous. They're like so long, so thoughtful, so detailed. She gives amazing feedback, and even like constructive criticism. She just, it's all there. And every time I get one of her reviews, I'm kind of like, I'm really, really excited, but I'm also like, there's no way I can ever like respond to this well enough because they're always just so like long and beautiful and full of compliments. And I'm always like, thank you. I don't know what to say. So I'm really excited that she won this award. Yeah, does anybody else want to jump in on that one for a second?
Yeah, I want to echo that. I forget what story I just recently read, but she left a 2,200 word review. It was basically a chapter, but she left this amazing review. It's like no stone is left unturned. She addresses everything that you want a reader to address. Like as a writer, you're like, that's what I wanted the reader to respond to, or that's what I wanted to know. And she just hits it. She's so good at reviewing. So yeah, definitely well deserved.
She reviewed like 39 chapters of my story in one go, and I like read the review, and it was ridiculously long, and I just sat there just like internally screaming for a good 15-20 minutes. Like, best reviews.
Best reviews.
Sharn is just like a reviewing legend, because she revealed more of her sweetness on Twitter yesterday/today, given the time zones. But that comes through in her reviews too. She's so thorough, so comprehensive, always comments with great detail on what she liked and what she loved about the stories. Leaves huge amounts of reviews on a tear for novels that any of us who write novels, God knows, like if you can get reviews past the third chapter, like you've struck gold with whoever's leaving the reviews. But it's incredible the dedication that she puts into each review and reviewing in general, in how quickly she can crank out these amazing reviews too, so that she delivers them to everybody in this incredible volume is just peerless in my opinion, like anywhere that I've ever posted writing. So that congratulations, Sharn. That takes us over to our next category, which was best world building, and we had 3 finalists in that category. Finalists were Jigsaw by Sharn, aka Not Theodore, Not Fade Away by Kath, aka Slide, and Project Azkaban by Gina. And the winner was Project Azkaban. This story just blew my socks off, because to be perfectly honest, when the story began, it had this incredible description, this incredible immersion in Teddy's character, who has lived only I guess comparatively speaking to our world, relatively short time in total isolation, but has basically, because of what you find out later, like adopted his solitary confinement as a home to defend. Then, of course, you put that characterization, you put the amazing descriptions and evolution of the plot that occurs in that opening section of the story, and then it gets followed up. It's kind of like this jarring transition initially to a project proposal from who else? An Unspeakable, that is put forth for how are we going to deal with Azkaban going forward, when we know how it's been breached before, both from the outside and from the inside. And it sets up this whole project that the ministry comes up with, for a self-contained, self-operating Azkaban, where people, you think the Dementors are sinister, but you then get this idea from a human being who decides what would make this self-sufficient prison really crucial. What would make it actually function and be totally perfect? Well, let's steal people's memories from them before we get them in there. And then they have this situation which perfectly explains how Teddy is in there and how he really doesn't understand anything but who he is, doesn't understand the flashes that are his memories, actually, and how he adopts a prison as his home. One of the things that stuck out to me, and certainly want to talk to Gina about this since we have her here, was being kind of in the, not kind of, but being in the legal system and the profession involving the criminal justice system. It was really striking to me the way that this really mirrors, and it surprises people, I think, or could, if you haven't watched the documentaries, there are loads of them out there. It really, in a lot of ways, accurately captures the real psychological suffering of even what we would think of on the outside as a comparatively short term of solitary confinement, where people adopt this idea that there is no world. I mean, that cell is their world. And people either learn to deal or they lose their minds, sometimes literally. And it's that was a really interesting element that jumped out to me. One of the aspects of the story too is how there's this advanced, if you thought destroying people's memories was incredibly cruel, there's like this even more advanced cruelty where they can actually force people to serve 2 life sentences inside of Azkaban 2.0 because they use magic to basically make time in there progress at double the time that it progresses in the outside world. And this struck a chord with me as well from an episode I saw. I'm a fan of the newer version of The Outer Limits. It was from the 90s to the early 2000s, and there's an episode about like a virtual reality prison that people get sent to, where the maker winds up in there and winds up horrified at what he has created because of how something akin to this would function. So having read the horrors that Teddy and Victoire have gone through, who, based on the ending, and Gina can illuminate us on this too, I'm imagining that they are the quote unquote voluntary, willing participants to testing this horror show, but definitely makes me want to have Emmanuel Brandt Unspeakable of the Space Department. I think he needs to spend some time in there, to be perfectly honest. But Gina, now that I have rambled on for an eternity, can you tell us how you came up with this idea?
Sure. This actually came through a combination of things. One was just my genuine curiosity in what they were going to do with Azkaban. Oh, I have a kitty visiting. Because in the war with Voldemort, Dementors proved to be very easily swayed to join the dark side. So obviously they couldn't have them anymore. So what are they going to do? And obviously it has been broken into. So I kind of took all these problems and I thought, okay, let's make a prison that's not physically in our world. That's kind of like you go through a veil, kind of like the one that Sirius fell through. And it's no Dementors, totally run by itself. And I figured I had to add that cruel. I'm glad you picked up on that cruelty aspect, because I figured, I mean, Dementors make you relive your like worst memories constantly, and it sucks all the happiness out of you. So that's kind of cruel in a way. What can we do without Dementors? Oh, well, we can take their memories so that they don't feel like, because without memories, what are you fighting for? You can't remember what was here before. You're just kind of in a cage, basically. So we'll take their memories. We'll slow down time so that they can live multiple life sentences. And there's another aspect which I don't want to spoil, so I'll leave it at that. And then another thing that I guess the catalyst to me finally starting this project was a dream that I had. I think I'd been thinking about this for so much that it just like planted itself in my subconscious. And I had a dream that I was in this prison, and that as I was trying to escape, there were all of these like, I don't even know, like hurdles that I had to get over. It was almost like an obstacle course, except they were all deadly. Like there was one with swords and one, and that's not going to show up in the story, but it struck me that, okay, these are some of the things that I can incorporate in the story, though. I can incorporate this idea of, do we even want to escape this place, knowing that it's probably going to be deadly? This fear, this not knowing what's coming next or what came before. It was really the dream that kind of got me thinking. My dreams are always so bizarre. Like I can't even explain them. They are so bizarre, but I use them for a lot of inspiration for stories. But yeah, I think that's all I can really say without spoiling too much.
Well, I'm very sorry that you lived that dream. That
I know, it was terrible.
That sounds horrible. Thank God you woke up.
Yeah, seriously.
Okay, so our next category is most addictive story, and that's probably why it took me a little while to get back to the microphone, because I kind of got pulled in there for a minute. So we had 3 nominations for most addictive story. We had Breathe by poppunkpadfoot. We had Complicated by Shadow Rose, and Home by Adorably Cute. And our winner is Complicated by Shadow Rose. Congratulations, Shadow Rose. Very good, very good. Okay, so Complicated. Abigail Winchester is the girl, and she starts out as this pretty stuck up, insufferable thing in the first chapter, and she goes through some character development throughout all of this, I'm happy to report. And it's last year of Hogwarts, and everybody wants to make the best of it. She's got this great group of friends. She has the perfect couple thing going on. And there's some other things going on too. Her home life isn't quite as perfect as, she'd like to be. There's feuding with the pranks, all the good Hogwarts stuff, and you just have to know what's going to happen next. There are secrets, things are unraveling, and they're so close to getting out that reality is starting to creep into their lives little by little. And it's a pretty fun ride. So if you want to get sucked into the story like I just did several times over the last week, there are 42 chapters up for everybody to get sucked into. Would anybody else like to say something about Complicated by Shadow Rose? It will certainly suck you in. Go ahead.
I mean, I don't I can talk about it because I wrote it, I guess. But it's, yeah, it kind of, it's I will forever like blame it for being like it. I kind of am really excited that it won most addictive story because it honestly, it probably would be classified as addictive to me as well, because like I got out of writing for some reason for like 3 or 4 years, and then I don't know what I was doing, and I found all of the files on my computer and read all 10. Like I only had 10 chapters at the time in a day, and then got obsessed with it myself and had to finish it. So that's kind of like I found it out of nowhere, and it like became addictive to me to like write. So it's been a fun journey in that regard.
Well, when the author feels something when they're writing it, you know that the reader is going to feel it too. So absolutely, we just get sucked right along in with you. So can you, without spoiling too much, talk about this whole thing with James Potter? Why did you choose James for this role that he plays in your story?
I think that, I don't know. I feel like with next gen stories, like he's like the character to like attach a female character to. Like I don't know. I feel like he's just kind of like the character, and then they're just kind of, when I like envision him as a character, a lot of the personality traits that I really needed for what happens, and as a like foil to Abigail herself, like he just fits. I don't know.
Well, I really like in the early part of the story where she has this secret and she thinks that she is carrying it pretty well. She feels that guilt about it. And she thinks that she has everyone fooled that she needs to have fooled. And you give her that settling in feeling right before the big fall. And I usually read stories and I get expectations. Oh, here it comes. Here, I was not expecting that. You had me fooled with that sense of security with her. She has she just has this this personality where, when she believes something, she really believes something. And I believed that she had everything under control, just like she thought she did. And so congratulations for surprising me, because when I get surprised, I know somebody's doing something right. So congratulations for your most addictive story, Complicated by Shadow Rose. Go get addicted to the story.
Okay, our second to last category is a most original story. And we had 3 very original, very beautiful, of course I had to use the word beautiful again, finalists for this category. The first was Coffee and Cursebreakers by Pixileanin. The second was That Post is a Keeper, also by Pixileanin. And the third was The Northern Tales by Not Theodore. And the winner, or shall I say winners, were The Northern Tales by Not Theodore and Coffee and Cursebreakers by Pixileanin. 2 very original, very interesting stories. I have read the first chapter of each, actually, and I need to finish them. Let's start, I guess, with The Northern Tales, because that's first on my list. I read these 2 back-to-back real quick as I was preparing to vote, and I thought they were so fascinating. I love the feeling of them, the tone of these stories. These are 2 tales of the region of the north of England. It's history, it's heritage, and they're magical stories. So the stories of, I guess, the history of wizarding I don't know how to word that. The first is called The Giant's Tears, and the second is called The Basilisk Slayer. And they read almost like the Tales of Beetle the Bard. They're so original, so unique, and they give me this feeling of reading an old tale. I love that Sharn can capture that feeling and capture that atmosphere as you're reading these tales, and they're so short. She packs so much into these short pieces. It's just you're hanging on to every word when you read them. I love the feeling of these stories. And then the other winner was a story that we've talked about a little bit already, but Coffee and Curse Bakers by Pixileanin. I read the first chapter of this story. Oh, I guess I said earlier I read the first chapter of both stories. I read both chapters of the Northern Tales and the first chapter of Coffee and Curse Breakers just for voting. And I got to finish it because it's great. But it's so cool. I love that this is a story that could have been so cliche, but it's not. This idea of soulmates who are tied by this interesting mark on their arms, which Pix describes really well. Correct me if I'm mistaken, but this ancient runes it's got a connection to these runes, and they have to figure out what it means, and that it turns colors when the other person is upset or, based on their mood. And then these two characters meet, which I don't want to spoil who the characters are because I didn't really know fully who the second character was until the end of the first chapter, and that realization was really cool. But like I said, this idea that could be really cliche, but it's not at all. It's so interesting. I was just in awe that Pix could create something like this with so much detail and so much intrigue just in the first chapter already. I was so drawn in. Both totally original stories, well deserved for both of these awards. And I'm looking at the clock and realizing that we've been running now for a while. So I'm going to keep it short and leave it at that. But congratulations to both of you.
Okay, I'm going to hop in. It's our last category, so we should have this wrapped by 10. Our last category is Most Versatile Author, and we had 3 finalists, Crimson Quill, Melian, is that how it's pronounced, and Pixileanin. Is it Melian? Anyway, I'm going to call her Mel. She is our winner for Most Versatile Author this year. Yay! I think it's so well deserved. I'm excited that she won. If you go look at her authors page, it is like really impressive. I'm looking at it right now, she has 60 stories, which is more stories than I can personally conceive of writing. And it's so varied. I mean, you guys know me. I don't have to tell anybody that if you look at my AP, it's very, it's all Marauders. Not so with Mel. It's like within the first page, it's like Neville Longbottom, Barty Crouch Jr., Gellert Grindelwald, like Luda Lovegood. It's all over the place. Draco Malfoy, Victor Crumb. She's got so much going on. She tackles all these different characters, all these different eras, all these different genres, and all of her stories, every single story of hers I've ever read, I really enjoyed. Like, she's a really great writer. She can bounce around between all these different areas and just really nail all of them, which is amazing in my opinion. So yeah, congratulations, Mel, for winning that category this year. So well deserved. I'm gonna pass it to Kevin because I am sure he has something to say to wrap up.
You are, as usual, Kayla, absolutely right. I just want to start by thanking everybody who participated in the POGS this year, whether you were out there throwing out nominations, whether you followed through on voting, whether you were out there on social media like some people were, and status updates encouraging people to participate. For me, one of my big pushes this year in continuing on into the future has been trying to get and keep our common room more active because we've had, fortunately, we've had the injection of a lot of incredible new members who've contributed immediately, given a lot of life, and so I've been really trying to make sure that we get through the ebbs so that we can really fully enjoy the flows when they're going on in the common room. And the POGS was this crazy thing that I laid out, making it longer than before. Some might say longer than it needed to be. I'll probably follow up with people after that. But all of this live stream, which we've all had so much fun with, I hope I can speak for everybody saying that wouldn't be possible without people being in the common room participating. So it was incredible to see how many posts we had going on in there, how many posts we had going on in the blanket fort at the same time. And so it meant the world to me seeing everybody there having a blast together. To all of our nominees, this was an incredibly difficult thing to separate out nominees and finalists, and then finalists was incredibly difficult to separate out the finalists from the winners. I mean, we had a few categories. Obviously, you saw we had, I think, 4 ties, 4 or 5 ties, which is incredible. We also had so many categories that, we're talking about 1 vote margins in so many places, between even categories that did have an outright winner, and even talking about nominees who didn't quite make it to the finalist realm. We have that whole situation. So it was incredibly competitive. I think everybody who was nominated, was a finalist, won, should be incredibly proud of themselves. We will be summarizing all of what we've gone through tonight in a much more succinct, but maybe less fun form. Hopefully still a little bit fun, but maybe just a little bit less. In a written form, in the Pride of Gryffindor subform, in the CR. I will have, I don't know if a pip is really the right word, because I guess that's flair that goes under your avatar, but I have created a graphic that will be able to be added to story banners, kind of like we've used for the POGS Awards in the past on the site. And so people will be able to pick that up. We'll have rundowns of the nominees, finalists, and winners. And congratulations again to everybody. Love you all. Thank you for participating. And we hope to see you again on the channel and in the CR throughout the next year and on for the 2019 POGS. Have a great night, guys.